So Kyrie Irving is going to play next year. The question is, when is he going to play next year? He's part of the Dallas Mavericks. Drafted Cooper Flag, number 1. They have Anthony Davis. They're going to have Klay Thompson. They got Jason Kidd, who's not going to be the next coach of the New York Knicks. You see the thing, the pieces would be in place that whenever he gets back, that could be a very formidable team in the Western Conference. But check out what he said in the Kyrie Irving Twitch stream. Do not try to say that 5 times fast on if he's going to be back for the playoffs when next season the playoffs roll around.
Don't hold your breath on that. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't mean that I won't be back. It's just I don't want to make any predictions on when I'm going to be back. I just want to be back 150,000% better. So I'm taking my time right now to really get healthy. I'm taking my time to really get my body right, other portions of my body right, and really just enjoy this recovery process, man. It's not pretty. Yes, it is a beautiful struggle, but I go through kind of the mental roller coaster ride of every day. Just want to be back out there.
Yeah, I understand why he would be cautious when it comes to prognosticating when he's going to return, any kind of predictions, any kind of forecast, because when you're a 33-year-old athlete that's had multiple knee injuries and multiple knee rehabs,
right,
you understand that it takes a while. You understand that it's a process. You understand that your recovery is not linear. And so for Kyrie Irving, going out there on social media and saying that he's going to be back definitively by the trade deadline or definitively before the end of the regular season just doesn't make any sense. There's no win in it for Kyrie to make that kind of statement and be definitive in terms of a timeline. So I get all of that, but I will say this, Freddie C., as somebody that's been more bullish than most when it comes to how this Dallas Mavs team is built, I don't know. I gotta take a beat. I gotta pause for a second in terms of viewing them as a serious contender, because Kyrie Irving was the straw that stirs the drink. When it comes to the Dallas Mavs potentially contending, when it comes to the vision that Nico Harrison put together post-Luka Doncic trade, it all stems around Kyrie Irving being dynamic. And I understand why Nico would have that kind of faith in Kyrie, because since Kai got to Dallas, he has been awesome. I mean, last season, Kyrie was 25, 5, and 5 and played at an all-NBA level. It was his 5th season where he averaged better than 40% from 3, 90% from the free throw line, and 20 points per game. That was his 5th season in his NBA career doing that, essentially being a 50, 40, 90 guy.
Right.
That is incredible. Not to mention he's the best ball handler God ever made. So when it comes to being able to get his own shot, when it comes to being able to create for others, when it comes to being able to, set the tone, set the pace for how your team plays on the offensive end, very few do it better than Kyrie Irving, especially when you look at what he would now have to work with, drafting them Cooper Flag, having Anthony Davis, having Derek Lively, having Daniel Gafford, having all of those players on that roster. Kyrie Irving was the kind of player that could take this team to the championship rounds. And so now when you start talking about pushing the timeline back in terms of when they think he could get back, it does change the math in terms of what I think the Dallas Mavs can accomplish this season.
Yeah, I hear when you're saying that, but I think even without him, as dynamic as he is, and you mentioned it, Nico Harrison essentially chose him over Luka Doncic. And I guarantee that bothers a lot of people in Dallas because of what Kyrie Irving's past has been, not what he's been with the Dallas Mavericks, because he's been more than a model player. He's been a model teammate for this basketball team. Even Luka Doncic talked about one of the guys he was going to miss the most was Kyrie Irving. And they hadn't been around each other that long before that trade happened earlier this year. It shows exactly how much he's been able to flip his whole reputation in the court of public opinion, what he's been able to do on and off the basketball court for the Dallas Mavericks. So in my opinion, he said the right thing in terms of, hey, I want to make sure that when I'm back, it's not going to be 80, it's not going to be 85. I'm going to make sure I'm a full tilt Kyrie Irving for this basketball team. But he can also afford to say that because look at the kind of talent level that's going to be there. Jason Kidd has shown he can get talent level to play well quickly. He's shown that before as the Dallas Mavericks head coach, and look what happened before last year when they had the trade and everything else, and he still got into the playing game with all the injuries and the defections when Luka Doncic got traded. So I still think they're going to be formidable enough in terms of being a pain in the you-know-what in the Western Conference, and when he gets back, that's going to be a team that's going to be hell to deal with because of everything you said, CC. that dynamic on the basketball court and able to raise everybody else's game that we've seen ever since he got to the Dallas Mavericks in 2023.
Yeah, it's just that what happens in the interim, right? Can they keep their season alive until Kyrie gets back? That's the biggest question that has to be answered. And you're going to have to rely on other guys to distribute a little more than what you would normally expect if Kyrie Irving were in the lineup, right? So you have D'Angelo Russell, who is a more than capable backup point guard. He can hold you down as the starter until Kai gets back. But you're going to need other guys that get in on distributing. What can Klay Thompson give you in terms of being able to space the floor? What can Cooper Flagg give you in his rookie year in terms of being able to facilitate the greatness of others? Mm-hmm. Those guys are going to have to step up. Can you run the offense through Anthony Davis and allow him to potentially facilitate at times? Those are things that Jason Kidd is going to have to figure out on the fly if they're going to make sure not to disqualify themselves before the postseason gets here. So that's going to be the biggest key, is can you maintain your standing in a crowded Western Conference? Can you put your team in position where you can qualify for the playoffs and have Kyrie Irving come back healthy enough to be able to be that difference maker that we know he can be when he's 100%? So those are the questions that have to be answered. So I do think that what we got from Kyrie Irving is something over the weekend.
Sure.
I'm not going to jump out of the window. I'm not going to overreact. But at the same time, I'm not going to forecast that the Dallas Mavs are going to be in the conference finals in 2025, 2026.
Yeah,
I just can't do that.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, and look at all the other moves that other teams have made. What the Houston Rockets made with that move, that 7-team trade in which Kevin Durant's going to be a part of that basketball team. We know that Oklahoma City, they're not going anywhere. The San Antonio Spurs could be more of a fact in the Western Conference than people want to admit, especially if they get a healthy Victor Wembanyama at the beginning of the year with De'Aaron Fox, and also with the kind of value they're going to get from Dylan Harper, getting him with one of the top picks in the NBA draft. The Denver Nuggets, what they've been able to do to look like a Nuggets team that we saw win a championship not too long ago, to fortify that team around Jamal Murray, of course, Nikola Jokic. So, yeah, your point is valid, the Dallas Mavericks. I'm just saying that they got the perfect kind of coach that stemmed them through when it comes to Jason Kidd. Yeah, they're not going to be world beaters without Kyrie Irving. Nobody's dumb enough to say anything like that. If you are, then you need to be drug tested.
But they are going to be really good defensively.
They really are.
They are going to be a really good defensive team, and that's going to be the calling card. If you remember when Nico Harrison said, after he traded Luka, he said, we believe that defense wins championships. Mm-hmm. Well, they got a lot of guys that can play really, really good defense.
Max Christie, like P.J. Washington.
I mentioned all of the bigs. They still have P.J. Washington on that team. Cooper Flagg is going to be really good defensively. They got Max Christie from my Lakers last year in that Luka trade. He's really good defensively. They got a lot of guys that are stoppers on the defensive end of the court. And we just saw how defense impacts your team contending for championships. OKC was one of the best rated defensive teams in all of basketball. They won the title. So if you can play really good defense, you're going to give yourself a chance. If you can get stops consistently, you're going to give yourself a chance. This Dallas Mavs team, even without Kyrie Irving, is going to be capable of doing that. It's just going to be interesting to see how Jason Kidd overcomes the issues on the offensive end, because you don't have somebody as dynamic as Kyrie initiating the offense, facilitating the greatness of others, creating for others. That is going to be fascinating to see how Jason Kidd overcomes that obstacle, because that is going to determine whether or not the Dallas Mavs are going to be within striking distance once the playoffs tip off.
Basketball in Texas and the NBA is going to be so good. You got San Antonio, Victor Wembanyama, De'Aaron Fox, and Dylan Harper. You got Houston, where you got